Hey guys, welcome back to the Female Athlete Inner Circle, the online platform for female athletes, coaches, and parents. It's about educating and starting a conversation about everything female athletes on and off the playing field. Today, my guest is Falesha Johnson, and we are going to be talking about track and field. So Falesha, welcome to the call.
Thank you for having me. Excited to be here. Excited to share some of my insight on the amazing sport of track and field. A little biased, but yes.
So I'm very, very excited to have you because I will be learning a ton from this interview because I am not, never did track and field, always was basketball. So for everyone listening that's not familiar with you, let's talk about your background as an athlete and what you're doing now.
Yeah, so I was a collegiate athlete at the University of Washington. My background was the hurdle. So I was a 100-meter hurler, a 400-meter hurler. I ended up having 2 All-American awards through track and field, and I went on to run professionally for Brooks Running, where I focused just on the 100-meter hurdles. And my goal was the Olympic trials in 2012. And now I take the knowledge and experience that I have and I give it to others. And I have a company called Elite Performance where I do speed and agility training for all sports. So I have expanded myself outside of track and field, and I work with sports as far as soccer, lacrosse, softball, baseball, football, and really work on hammering down running fundamentals and speed and agility training.
Nice. So as everyone's listening, they can see that you are an expert at the sport of track and field. So let's talk about just track and field in general and what you see now as a coach that these female athletes are facing. Like, what's the struggles these females are facing with the sport of track and field?
Yeah, I would say there's 2 struggles as far as the demands on the mental aspect and the physical. With track and field is very much an individual sport. So yes, you are part of a team, but when it comes down to your performance, it's you out there by yourself. So for instance, the 100-meter hurdles, it was very much just me out there running, and the pressure of dealing with always trying to PR. So a PR is your personal record. You're always trying to best yourself in your last meet. You come down to trying to run faster as a 100th of a second. So trying to find those small increments of improvement. And I think that there's a lot of pressure with young ladies and female athletes to be better than they were yesterday. And trying to kind of backtrack that in a holistic way is focusing on all the little things. So running faster can also be stronger. So there's a lot of pressure I see on the athletes to be faster each time. And so I think the mental aspect is very challenging. So you're seeing those really struggle with being able to be prepared for their meet. So I see a lot of more, I would say, mental coaches you're seeing in track and field. So there's the psychologist portion of it, and a lot of our athletes are working with coaches to deal with the pressure. So when it's a team, you can lean on your teammates to help you kind of cope through the adrenaline you get through a meet. But now we're having coaches being able to talk to their athletes as far as finding ways to deal with self-talk. So how do you pump yourself up before a track meet, and how do you calm your body to handle that pressure? So I see that as like one of the big demands mentally. And then physically, it's a lot of impact on your body, to continue to run your joints, your knees. And I see that there's, in the pro world, there's the dealing with the substance that you're using. So really making sure that you're bringing the right fuels and things of that nature into your body to prepare you for.
Nice. So we mentioned the mental, we mentioned the physical. So for the mental, what do you do with your athletes that you work to help them kind of get in the right mental space now?
Yeah, so I do a lot of work on routine. So creating that routine, really understanding that all the work you do prior to your game, your meet, is to prepare you. So feeling confident within your body and within the sport. So I do, when we're at a practice, we break things down to small little tasks, but we share about, okay, so this is what's you're going to do before your meet or before your game. So whether it be small little cues that they're working on, we do that. We also talk about their warm up, having a very smooth warm up that just looks the same all the time. So with track and field, you want to be tired, you want to be sweating. So for us, it's like that first race, you get down, you get the kinks out, you're like, man, I wish I could do that again. Because it is for the 100-meter hurdles, it's 13 seconds. Or if you're running 100, you're a very top elite professional athlete, it's in 11 seconds. So you're warming up for an hour for 11 seconds of running, like trying to get through that. So we talk about really having a really sound, talking through that when the warm up. So tunnel vision and really thinking about what the race looks like. So I tell them, all right, before your race, get out there, get in your lane, and then start to walk yourself through the race. So close your eyes and envision yourself. The gun goes off. I react to it. I take a handful of steps. I drive out. Like start to walk that through in your head. And also what you'll see is that you are in a track and field race and there's heats. The person before you, the gun might go off. You hear that. So you want to understand the cadence of the start. So close your eyes, hear the gun go off, boom, react to it. So we walk through those little things because after 15 seconds, it's done and you can't redo it. So that's another thing. And our warm up is a lot of great getting the sweat going, but also you're overdoing it. So for like a basketball game, you're gonna get warmed up, but for a track, you're gonna do maybe 4 all-out sprints, knowing that you're going to continue to get better and better towards the end. So before you go out there and have the full out race, you'll have sprinted all out for about 3 or 4 times already.
I never really thought about what you said, how like you warm up for, let's say, an hour and then your actual like performance is like 10 to 15 seconds. Whereas with basketball, like we might warm up for 20, 30 minutes, but then we're playing like a 2-hour game. And I never even really thought about that. That's a lot of work to do like a short amount of like performance.
Exactly. And I think in our minds, we think, okay, well, we don't want to exert too much energy. We want to save that energy. We want to bottle in. And for track, it's almost the opposite. You want to exert it. You want to feel a good sweat. You want to get a great warm up, and having to mentally kind of step back and realize, okay, it is smart for me to have an hour warm up. I think for a lot of my younger youth athletes, they hate the warm up. They want to do 1 lap. They want to do a few drills. And then they feel like they're ready to go. And it's like, no, like you got to get the ankles, the knees, the joints. You got to get everything fully ready for having like full extension in your spine. You got to go over every little small drill before you get out there. So trying to break through that barrier of understanding a good warm up, but also a really good cool down. So yes, you warm up for an hour. You go out there and sprint for 15 seconds. Then you come back down. I need you to get a really good cool down, because for most track athletes, they're going to run maybe 3 or 4 events. And so now we've got to get the body cooled down a bit and then warmed up again for the next event, which might be in 30 minutes to an hour. So there's a constant movement because we can't have the body get too cold and sit down. You'll see the impact on that in the future races throughout the day.
Nice. So you touched on the mental, and then we kind of went into the physical, but like what are the physical demands, or what would you recommend for the track athletes that are listening, like to prepare them for their 15-second sprint?
Yeah, I mean, it's a combination of being in the weight room, but also being on the track. So I would say technique is so big for track. A lot of it, people feel like, I'm just going to run over and over. No, being technically sound is the key. So slowing it down and doing timing, A skips, B skips, C skips, all of those drills for 20 meters, and then going into your mobility drills, and then going in through some really good dynamic stretching, and then doing some build-ups, and then doing some sprinting. So that physical aspect, I would put a lot of emphasis on really good technically sound drills before we go into all of that intense speed work. I think too many of us get right into just all-out sprints, and our form is all over the place. Because with running, what we're trying to do is get faster, but 110th of a second, it's all about posture. It's all about full extension in your arms. And so you have to start to do the small tasks before you think about the big task.
Nice. Now, you mentioned the weight room, and I know you work with many female athletes, not just track and field. So we'll kind of just broad for the female athletes. do you find, two questions, like number one, that you have a hard time convincing female athletes to get in the weight room? And then kind of the second part of the question is, talk about the benefits of strength training for track and field, but also just for female athletes in general.
Yeah, I do. I see that. I think it's a combination of comfortability. So there's the, I don't want to get big and bulky. And then B, there's, I just don't feel comfortable in the weight room. And I was one of those. I didn't start lifting weights until I got into college. And then when I got to college, I didn't have the right form. I was in a weight room in a college setting where we're sharing it with men, we're sharing it with football players. And that's one thing about track and field, other than other sports, it's co-ed. So my workouts and my practices were with men, with boys. So we would be at the same time. They would go off for a sprint and we'd be right behind them. So we're sharing a weight room with them, and understanding that, and understanding that they've been lifting because it's part of what they do for some reason. They're 15 or 16, and here I am not knowing how to pick up a barbell properly and a deadlift properly, and understanding the proper warm-up. So yeah, there's that portion of it, getting to understand and comfortable with the weight room, and then also building into why it's so important. It's just with sprinting, it's all about power and exerting that maximum power. So being strong is really going to help your start. It's really going to help you explode out the blocks. It's going to help you bring that knee up and that drive. So trying to explain to our young ladies that a lot of what we do is not so much of building a lot of muscle mass, but it's really about defining some of those muscles and making them more powerful. So we can get a great workout in the weight room and not leave a year later feeling like bulky. Some of our bodies are just never going to be that way. And some of us have bodies that will take on to like squatting and add to their hamstrings and quads. So that's big. But for strength training, some of the big drills and exercises we do is all about the power. So Olympic lifting big. So for my young ladies that are just start with the dumbbell. Start with a dumbbell and really work on simple drills as far as snatching. So working on the full extension and snatch. You could do squats with the dumbbells in your hands. We do box jumps. So we do a lot of like plyos and explosive block jump and box step ups. So things of that nature, that's never going to get you big. But what that is going to do is get you explosive. So understanding that aspect of it, it's really important for track.
Nice. No, I mean, that makes complete sense. I mean, I am a huge advocate that all females, no matter what sport you're playing, you absolutely need to be in the weight room because it's only going to benefit your sport. And then do you see a ton of injuries with track and field athletes? And if you do, what are the type of injuries you see?
What we see is hamstring pulls, hamstring quad. You'll see that. You'll see stress fractures in the shin area. So you'll see a lot of shin splints, and that is a combination of impact. And so that's one thing that you see with track and field is because a lot of it is running, it's always impact on your feet, on your joints. And so trying to find that balance. And for me, when I got into college, I went to 2-a-days and then weights, and my body just went into total shock because it was not used to that level of training, but also that frequency of training. So it's so key to have those off days. So what's really important is to get into like the pool, low impact, where you can still focus on drills, but have low impact on your feet. So, but one of the big issues would be, and that it would be due to a really not great of a warm up. And that's why you'll see a lot of the coaches and me myself really harp on having a really proper like warm up, because if you get out there and your body is not ready for it, that hamstring pull, and it's hard to come back from it. In fact, there's not a lot of like lateral movement. You don't usually see a lot with knees. It's more just kind of impact. And so finding the right shoe is good, but then also on turf or grass and finding different types of terrains. So training on all other tracks. So that helps now rather than back in the day with dirt tracks and things of that nature. You'll see in off season, coach might tell you to find a grassy hill rather than find a hill on a street. Things like that.
Nice. Do you think that you, and you probably know this, that like it's one sport athletes right now? Like if they run all year long. You know, if they play basketball, they play basketball. Kind of what are your thoughts on just kind of just doing track and field, and why at a younger age it might be better to be kind of play multiple sports?
Yeah, it's really important to play multiple sports. I would say that for me, when I'm coaching, I have a lot of athletes that play soccer and then run track or something of that nature, or lacrosse and do other things. Track is such a good foundation sport to have because it supplements a lot of the other sports. And that's what I found through Fleet Performance is that I'm training anywhere from softball to lacrosse. At the end of the day, running is always one of the key things you need to have in all of those sports. So I always tell them that, you know, if you're going to try track, trying at a younger age really helps provide form and it creates really good habits, which is so hard once you get to college or 16 or higher to start to perfect some of those forms the habits you've created. So when your body is growing and when you're still learning about coordination, it's good to try track early on. But I think it's important not to do track year round. Some might disagree with me, but when you have indoor season, high school outdoor season, and then there's also youth club, which is the whole summer. So there's Junior Olympics, which runs as soon as high school's out in June, it goes to early August. So then you come back and you've only got a few months as far as downtime. And that is where you see stress fractures and shin splints. It's really heavy in those athletes that do track year round and those youth athletes that aren't used to getting a break. So I would say that it's so important to pick one another. So maybe skip indoor or maybe go on a portion where you're only going to have so many races within a year is really key to find a way to kind of take away from all the stresses of being impacted on your feet. And then for athletes doing different sports in high school, it's important. I feel like I said, track helps you run faster, maybe in softball or football, but it's also good as far as being a complete athlete to be able to move laterally, the multi-direction. And so with track, I love it, but you're going from A to B straight line. Unless you're doing like high jump where you're kind of turning, but for the most part, you're not getting used to being able to go right to left. And I think that's important in other movements as well. And so that's why I would say that, you know, doing other sports plus track is a good combination.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. If someone wants to, for basketball in general, you want to get quicker and faster, I mean, track would be a great way to kind of work on your speed. But I always say to like kids that I talk to, like, if your goal is to play in college or your goal is to play professionally, if you look at a professional basketball player, like they're taking time off. Mm-hmm. And recently WNBA players have actually taken the WNBA season off because their bodies are just beaten from going to the WNBA and then playing overseas, WNBA and playing overseas. So they're taking the WNBA season off. So, I mean, these are the athletes we strive to be. They're the best at what they do, and they're taking time off. I mean, you'd be able to speak better than I have I mean, you were competing for the Olympics and all that. Like, I'm sure you took time off from your sport just to give it a rest, and then there was a time period where you were cranking out to get ready to compete.
Exactly. And what you'll notice is that you'll have collegiate athletes who, for them, they have indoor, they have outdoor, and some of them might try some pro races in the summer. And they peak early on. They peak right around June, but once the summer hits and they transition to a pro career, they've ran maybe 30 races already and the summer hits, and now they're starting to decelerate. Now their body just can't keep up. Whereas on a pro level, they don't start their outdoor season until about May, early June. And so they're peaking for late August when those are like the very top end meets of the circuit. And so you see that where they're really focused on how many races they're getting in rather than how long their season is. And so, like you said, it's so important to have those portions of your season where you're just focused on getting stronger. Low impact, we're just getting stronger. Or now we're just focused on low impact and we're in the water. Maybe we're doing mobility drills. So there's a way to get out on the track and not run. Hurdle walkovers are great for working on mobility. Just doing like yoga, Pilates, things of that nature to help extend their stride and extend that running gait. So having a down season is really important. And I know at a young age, it's hard because they have so much energy, like never tired. So they're like, I just want to keep going, having fun. but it catches up to you in the long run. I've seen that a lot as athletes have transitioned over to college. They plateau and they're so confused, but it's because of the years lead up to college season. Their body just can't handle it anymore.
Yeah, no, it's definitely I think a smack in the face when you jump to high school to college, just the physical demands of the game, but also you're just playing more of this workload. And I mean, I got smacked in the face my freshman year when I played basketball, because it is, well, one thing I love about kind of females working with females is that you ran in college, you ran professionally, like, what it takes to get there. So you can relate to these athletes. So I just think that's awesome. Like, I played, Division I, like when these kids are telling me that's what they want to play, I have an easier way to kind of relate to them than a guy. No offense to men, but they're not going to play women's basketball. They're not going to be a female track star. So we talked a lot today kind of about weight training, speed, the warm up. Anything else you want to add as we wrap up this call?
Yeah, I would say when it comes to just track and actually all sports, just listening to your body. So early on, I was told, like, what's the difference between an injury and pain? So really trying to fight through, like, knowing what pain is when you're running, because so much of track is really getting to extreme fatigue and fighting through that. And so being able to hit that next gear when you're running, but also in the next year, you feel like, okay, there's a monkey on my back. Like, legs cramp up, I can't go anymore. And sometimes that is actually building into an injury. So being able to learn what your body is going through. So once you're done running or cooling down, like, okay, what are you feeling? Are you feeling a little tweak in your quad? Usually before the injury happens, there's certain pain triggers that are telling you something's coming. So being really understanding of pampering your body. So you're fueling your body, you're getting a good cool down, but also rehabbing. So you're going in there and you're finding ways to break up those muscle tissues. You're doing your massages, you're rolling out. So there's a lot of little things that can help get your body prepared for the next day. So making sure you're listening to your body is one of the big tips that I've learned throughout the years.
That's some great advice for any athlete listening that, know the difference. So I really enjoyed talking with you and connecting today. If people want to learn more about you, where can they find you? Website, email, social media?
Yeah, so you can go to my website, www.fleetperformance.com. That has some videos up on there, but also you can find my email and contact information through that website. On Instagram, it is Fleet Performance. I post a lot of videos on speed and agility, and I try to keep it very educational. So there's always tips and cues about the benefits of each drill and what it's helping you with, and cues of how to get better. So Fleet Performance on Instagram, Fleet Performance on Twitter, and then Fleet Performance website. So that's where you can find me.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I love chatting, and I look forward to chatting in the future with you.
Yes, thank you.